Hello everyone, so hopefully you guys are ready for this video where we are going to be covering Asha Degree, and without further ado, we'll get right into the video. Asha Degree would be born on August 5th, 1990 to Harold and Akia Degree alongside her older brother, where both of them would actually be raised in their home on Oakcrest Drive, a residential subdivision in the general rural area north of Shelby, North Carolina, on the western edge of the Charlotte metropolitan area, with both her parents working regular jobs nearby, with her father Harold working as a dock loader and Akia working at a piano manufacturing plant. And on the same day when her parents were at work, Asha along with her brother would walk to their house. And of course, for the time, it wasn't uncommon for kids to walk themselves home or arrive to the house with no parents around. I myself was one of those children. And no, they weren't raised in a bad environment, as both parents would make sure that no bad influences would ever reach these kids, as they would center their life with extended family, school, and go to church regularly, with my findings showing that they lived pretty much close to the school. With the Degrees not even having a computer in their home, with Akia in an interview back in 2013 mentioning how every time you turn on the TV, there was some PDF file who had lured children away using the internet. Akia would also mention that Asha was shy, cautious, and content within the limits that they set in the home, with Akia bringing up how Asha was even scared of dogs, just to kind of paint an image to the personality that Asha had. Asha would be in the 4th grade of Falston Elementary, going into the 3-day weekend in the 2nd week of February 2000. With all Cleveland County schools being closed on Friday, February 11th. And while the Degrees still had work, the two kids would spend their days in their aunt's house in the same neighborhood. They would also go to youth basketball practices at their school, where the following day Asha's team, where she played point guard, lost the first game of the season, with Asha being fouled out. Her parents would recall that she was somewhat upset over it, crying along with her teammates, but eventually she would get over it and watch her brother's game later that day. So now that I've given a brief description of the life that they kind of lived, now I can go more in depth of the disappearance. And it would all happen on Sunday, February 13th, where the kids would go to church from one of their relatives' homes and then return home. And at around 8 p.m., they would both head to bed in a room where they shared. And about an hour later, the power would actually go out in the neighborhood after a nearby car accident. The power would return at about 12:30 a.m., with Harold checking up on his children, seeing that they were both asleep in bed. And he would check again before heading to bed at 2:30 a.m. and would again see them asleep. Not long after, her brother O'Brien, now 10, would actually recall hearing Asha's bed squeak. He thought at the time that she was only changing her sleeping position and would not wake up any further, and would actually fall back asleep. She would get out of bed taking a book bag with her that she had packed previously with several sets of clothes and personal items before leaving the home at around 3:45 to 4:15 a.m. She would walk along Highway 18th heading south, where a truck driver and a motorist would actually see her wearing a white long sleeve and white pants north of its junction, Highway 180, which is more than a mile away from her home. And this would actually be reported later to the police after they saw the TV report about her disappearance. The motorist would say that he turned his car around because he thought it was, quote, strange to see a small child would be out by herself at that hour, end quote. And he would then circle 3 times and would actually see Asha run into the woods by the roadside and then disappear. I'm guessing she did this because she got scared that, that a man was seeing her and following her. And keep in mind, there was a heavy storm raging while she was on the highway, and when he drove near her, she wouldn't actually look up at him, and he would actually describe her looking as if she knew where she was going. Akia would wake up at 5:45 a.m. to get the kids ready for school, and she would prepare a bath for them since the power outage caused them not to take one the day before. And then she would go to the kids' room before their alarms woke them up and called them to take a bath. Once Akia saw that Asha was not in bed, she began to look all over the house and in the car, finding no sign of her. She would tell Harold that she wasn't there with him, and he suggested that maybe she went to his mother's house across the street. So Akia would call her sister-in-law. But her sister-in-law would tell her that she wasn't there either, causing Akia to start panicking. And she would begin to put her shoes on and run outside, where she would call her mother, telling her to call the police. And there's actually an archive of an article that kind of goes into more detail about specifically what Akia went through during that time, which I will read for you. So one of the questions were, can you share the basic facts regarding your daughter Asha's disappearance? And she would respond, I woke up on February 14th, 2000 at 5:45 a.m. The alarm went off for my children to go to school at 6:30 a.m. I went to the bathroom 2 feet away from the door to start the bath water because they could not take a bath the night before since we had a power outage. I opened their bedroom door. My son, O'Brien, was under the covers as he usually slept. I called his name and he jumped up as usual. I realized that Asha was not in her bed. I looked beside his bed because sometimes she would get up at night and lay there. I asked him where she was. He didn't know. I checked the couch, I checked downstairs, I checked the kitchen, I checked every closet in the house. I went to my room and put on my clothes and told my husband Harold that Asha was not in the house. I checked our car and she was not there. My husband said maybe she was in my mother-in-law's home. She lived across the road. We called my sister-in-law's house and she was not there. That's when I went into panic mode. I heard a car next door. I did not have shoes on. I put shoes on and ran outside. I called my mom and told her that Asha was not in the house. She told me to hang up and call the police. I threw the phone at Harold and went outside. The next question would be, please describe the initial 24 to 48 hours from contacting the police and getting flyers disseminated to inform family members. By 6:40 a.m., the first police officer came and we started telling them what we woke up to. About 2 to 3 minutes later, the sheriff was there and more police officers were in the home. They asked for pictures. The sheriff called for a K9 unit, but we could not find anything but my scent. By that time, every neighbor in my street was up because I was walking up and down the road screaming my child's name. By 7 o'clock, we had every cop in the county here. Every news reporter had shown up. 5 or 6 local news channels were here. Local newspapers. By the time 7 o'clock came, I was plastered all over the television. That was the first year Asha was in 4th grade. She was upset by the first basketball loss of the weekend. And as it said in the article, at 6:40 a.m. the police would arrive in their home with search dogs not picking up her scent. And Akia would go through the neighborhood calling for Asha, waking up the neighborhood, and by 7 a.m., friends, families, neighbors would all be canceling their plans to assist the police in searching the vicinity, while the pastor of their church and other clergymen in the area would actually go to their homes to show support. And by the end of the day, all they could find was a mitten, which didn't even belong to Asha, with Akia saying that Asha took no winter clothes with her from the house. The next day on the 15th, candy wrappers that were her favorite would actually be found in a shed at a nearby business along the highway near the vicinity where Asha was last seen running into the woods. Along with the wrappers, they would actually find a pencil, a green marker, and a yellow hair bow that were identified as hers, and a photograph of a black girl that has yet still to be identified. And on the 16th, Akia would actually find that Asha's bedroom was also missing her favorite clothing, which I believe is what she took with her. A week would pass and the search would be called off after a 9,000 man-hours over a 2 to 3 mile area, including flyers all over the area and around 3,000 leads being submitted of possible sightings to tips of locations of where she might actually have been. And on the 22nd, County Sheriff Dan Crawford would actually hold a conference saying that they were going to go long range with the search, having both the FBI and the SBI involved in the case, and would put her in their database of missing children. And while the agencies were done in searching the area of her home and route, they would follow everything in terms of any new form of development. And what's strange is that from Akia's account of what Asha had with her showed signs that she had actually planned and prepared of leaving the home days before she disappeared. And she was also classified as not a typical runaway, as experts would note that most kids who run away were at least 12 years old. And investigators still believe that as of probably like last year, they still believe that. There's new developments, but we'll go into that a little bit later. But that is the main reason that they thought at the time of her leaving, and that maybe she had gotten sidetracked and possibly abducted. And this case would go national, with the family appearing on the Montel Williams show to call more attention to the case, with other programs like America's Most Wanted and the Oprah show devoting segments to the case. And police would also erect a billboard with Asha's face and information on how to identify her, which I'll show on the screen right over here. And it wouldn't be until August 2001 where they would find Asha's book bag among other items found during a construction project of Highway 18th in Burke County near Morganton, which was 26 miles away from where she disappeared. And the items that were found would be wrapped in 2 black trash bags, where her book bag contained her name and phone number. And the FBI would take it to the laboratory in Quantico, Virginia for forensic analysis, with no news on their findings as of the time of the reporting. And to this day, that's all they were able to find in terms of what she had on her during the time of her disappearance. And on the 20th anniversary of Asha's disappearance, the FBI would confirm that the book bag would contain a copy of Dr. Seuss's McElligot's Pool and a t-shirt with the New Kids on the Block on it, which are vital according to investigators. And there would be a lot of dead ends over the years, like with a tip from an inmate at the county jail where they would dig at an intersection in Lawndale where they would find bones, but with them turning out to just be from an animal. And the Degrees would make sure to make an effort to keep Asha's memory and the case alive in the public's mind, with them establishing a scholarship in her name for local students. And they would also host annual walks on the 16th of February to raise awareness, where they would walk from their home to Asha's billboard along Highway 18th, close to where she disappeared. The FBI would announce on February 2015, along with the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office and the state's Bureau of Investigation, that they were re-examining the case and re-interviewing witnesses, where they would announce a reward of up to $25,000 for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the person or persons responsible for her disappearance. And alongside that quantity of money, a community group would also offer an additional $20,000. 15 months would pass, and then the FBI would announce that they would start reinvestigating with the hopes of turning up any new possible leads, with them disclosing that Asha may have been seen getting into a dark green early 1970s Lincoln Continental Mark IV or a Ford Thunderbird of the same era, near with rust around the wheel wells, where she was last seen later that night. And on September 2017, the FBI would announce that its CARDS team would assist in the investigation and provide analysis and analytical support in order to obtain more information on what might have happened to Asha. And it does seem like they put in a lot of work with them meeting with other agencies several times over the course of the investigation, clocking in over 300 interviews, at least from the article as of February of 2018. And this would generally be the end of the video, but there's actually been some real new development, which I will be covering right now. So as I said, there's actually been new developments with them actually getting a search warrant that they executed by the CCOS and the FBI in relation to the case, with them finding multiple items of interest alongside a green 1964 AMC Rambler from the side of the warrant, with them now believing that she was a homicide victim. And just to kind of paint an image, I will show images of the cars that they assumed at first were the ones that she was in and the one that they found, with them also revealing two residents, Roy and Connie Demon, as suspects. And as I said, very recently, as of the 13th of February of this year, CCOS would actually conduct 3 search warrants where they would actually seize the cell phones from Roy, his daughters, and from 2 other people, Lizzie Foster and Sarah Demon, with them showing text messages here between the suspects, which I will read alongside the article. So before we actually go into the text messages, I will be giving context from the article so that way you can get an idea of what might have seemed suspicious. So from the article, it actually mentions how law enforcement searched the Demon's property on September of 2024, in which they were actually able to find that car among a few other items. And alongside that, a man would actually go to the police telling them a story about how he was at a house party with Foster and the Demons, with Foster seemingly visibly upset and intoxicated, with her at one point saying, quote, "I killed Asha Degree," and that the man reported that the Demons became stern and told Foster to shut the fuck up. And the man obviously said that this was out of the normal behavior because he normally saw her as calm and definitely not what he saw that night. And of course, they would ask him if he was sure on his memory, and he said that he was 100% positive about that memory, with them even doing a polygraph, which of course anybody that does true crime knows that they're not like 100% reliable, at least in terms of like, you know, cases and stuff, and depending on the state they might use it, they might not, but he did pass that test. So now I'll be reading the text messages to you, the dates, who's sending it to who, so that way you get an idea. So the first one would be sent on September 10th, 2024.
They think it's our shirt. It's not her shirt. Her mother said it wasn't hers. I don't remember that shirt. I'm scared though. Dad is probably going to be a huge suspect.
And then on September 11th, 2024.
Lizzie, you don't need to be talking to anyone. I'm at the lawyer's office right now. They advise we should all not talk to them without representation.
This is going to get nothing but worse. I'm talking to my doctor at 5 to get something for my nerves. I'm just so worried. So worried. I mean, it's a nightmare that's going to keep getting worse. I could see nothing good happening anytime soon, and I'm an optimist.
Oh, no. I hate it for y'all.
There's no way this is going to be okay.
September 12th, 2024.
I just talked to David Teddy, the family's lawyer. The theory is I did it. Accident. Covered it up.
No. Why would it be you?
That's what he said.
I feel so horrible. So horrible. I don't know what to do. I caused this.
No, you didn't.
Hey, is everybody mad at me?
Nobody is, Lizzie. This is not your fault.
September 29th, 2024.
I'm just so anxious about, what's going on behind the scenes. What are they doing now? What's going to happen to me since I wouldn't talk to them?
Foster referring when she was approached by law enforcement on September 28th, 2024.
I'm afraid it's going to get worse. Well, he told me it was going to.
I know, girl, it's a disaster. I think if they come at you again, just go and be compliant. That's what I'm planning on doing.
I think so too, honestly. I mean, I want to do what Dad says, but damn.
And maybe we should let you do what you originally wanted to do.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Right. You don't want something we do or say impact him, but we also can't be living like this either. I mean, I told him I'm not going to do that.
Right. Oh, you did? What did he say?
It's not like worth our mental health.
Right.
He was like, I will call Teddy and we can get a polygraph with the honest people.
Oh, okay.
I really just don't have it in me to go through what you might have been through.
It's been hell.
Just hearing about your situation has made me a disaster. Hearing about it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just can't imagine going through that.
But y'all have dealt with other stuff that I haven't.
And you're probably wondering how they're even involved in the case, or like why are they even suspects in the first place? And that links back to the 2 black trash bags that they found back at that site with Asha's stuff in it, with that DNA linking to Annalie Deadman Ramirez and a man named Russell Underhill, who is now deceased, with Deadman Ramirez being 13 years old at the time of Asha's disappearance. And this has been said by the police and from in the very same article that they just wish they could interview Underhill because they feel like he has the answers to what happened to Asha like all that time ago. But because he's passed, they can't really get any more information from him. So they have to kind of go to Ramirez. But as far as we've seen, Ramirez does not want to talk to the police as far as we've seen in the messages. Even though she says that nothing happened, you know, she might have been there or at least knew something that Underhill might have done. It's just a possibility, but we don't know. But it's very good that we're still seeing developments happen in this case. And now we have reached the end of the video where, in terms of final thoughts, I really don't have much in terms of thoughts. I mean, once we got this new development, I can only assume that they might have something to do with it. It's just, it's still developing, so we don't really have any answers, and I'm not going to really speculate on anything. It is possible, at least with the information, that a 13-year-old who was Ramirez, and I don't know how old Underhill was, but it is possible that maybe they were around the school at the time. They probably talked to Asha, said something, and that's why she was so confident in going out of the house. Or, like, that's just one possibility. Another one is possibly, like, they were just driving. Maybe Underhill was, at the time, you know, was able to drive, and they found her, and that's when the car was involved. But as I said, I'm only speculating, and I don't have enough information on how old Underhill was, but I suspect that they might have something to do with it, at least as far as we know as of right now. But of course, I will hold my tongue because we just need to wait for more information to come out. The police will for sure find something, just based on the fact that they were able to get something, you know, years after the initial search. So yeah, I think this is something that I'll keep tabs on, and maybe if, you know, something happens, I'll do an update or something like that. But yeah, that's all my thoughts in terms of the case. But I genuinely hope that she's still out there. If that situation isn't actually what happens, you know, if it's just like a coincidence or whatever have you, you know. But I do hope that she's still out there at the very least. If not, then hopefully we finally do have some information or confirmation that, you know, she is passed, and to give some closure to the family. That's, I think, all that we can wish for as of right now. But yeah, I hope you guys have a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good night. And until next time, I'll be seeing you.